Hey guys, Ty and Sky here from Ty and Sky's Health Pub, and we are looking for the health topics that matter to you. Follow the link to submit your ideas and we'll get them covered as soon as possible.
Have a good one. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Health Bits with Ty and Sky.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Today we are going to be discussing some fun medical history surrounding a certain disease called, or a bacteria called H. pylori. So we're going to be discussing the story of Barry J. Marshall. So
who's Barry J. Marshall?
I'm happy you asked, Skylar, because I have a wonderful article right here. But Barry J. Marshall, born on September 30th, 1951, was an original badass of medicine. So, Dr. Marshall grew up in Australia, and he kind of was known for research that was done in the 1980s that he took part in that helped link a bacteria known as Helicobacter pylori, or H. pylori for short, to stomach ulcers. Now, at the time, it was believed by kind of the medical community in general that stomach ulcers were tied to certain things like spicy foods or stress or other things like that. And the treatment for stomach ulcers was thus kind of surrounded around treating anxiety that may be in a person's life, or dealing with having them not eat as much spicy food and that sort of thing.
Man, that's crazy, because spicy food's generally considered pretty healthy in some aspects for numerous reasons. But I still think it's general good rule of thumb to I think they were onto something, but maybe not for the ulcers. But
well, yeah, and spicy foods can make certain other stomach ailments feel worse. But they were thought to be the cause of stomach ulcers, and that's the important point, the cause of stomach ulcers. And just
chimichanga was too hot, man.
Yeah.
Causing the ulcers.
Deadpool must have ulcers up the wazoo, but I suppose he heals himself, and I suppose that healing factor counts for his digestive tract as well.
Just deals with the pain. It's worth it for really good food, honestly.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, stomach ulcers, what they are is they are kind of, if you think of kind of like a sore that you might get on your arm, like an open sore, they are like an open sore in your gut, in your stomach.
Oh, God.
So the thought was that stress and spicy foods kind of mess with, we'll just say, the chemistry in your stomach. There's some protective factors that protect your stomach lining from acid, and then there are destructive factors like your stomach acid that is necessary to digest your food, but needs to exist in a certain balance with these protective factors that you have to prevent ulcers or these open sores from forming in your stomach lining. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background on what an ulcer is. So, what did Dr. Barry J. Marshall do to qualify him as one of our Health Pub OG badasses?
Did he eat a whole bunch of spicy food to disprove it, or what did he do?
So, very close, actually. And this is straight out of a Marvel comic or something like that. So, Dr. Marshall was working with a fellow researcher, and they noticed that H. pylori, or this bacteria, specific bacteria, was found in the stomach linings of, I think it was around 100 patients who were having issues with peptic ulcers or stomach ulcers. And they were still facing backlash from the community after this. So in order to provide further support for this theory that these two physicians had, Dr. Marshall actually swallowed a slurry of H. pylori bacteria.
That's gross.
Yes. He actually took this bacteria that to him, that he knew was causing these other people to get sick with upset stomachs, and leading them to have what's called acute gastritis. That is a big term for an upset stomach.
Oh,
or stomach
Medical
inflammation.
terminology always so fancy. Always
Yeah.
has to be more complicated than necessary.
It does. It does. But yeah. So anyway, he drank a slurry of this H. pylori, and of course, about a week later, or within the next week, he contracted the illness himself. Had a very upset stomach. So he used himself to kind of prove this connection between the bacteria H. pylori and acute gastritis, or again, that short-term upset stomach illness and stomach ulcers.
So basically, he was just like, "Hey guys, this is what actually causes it, and if you don't believe me, hold my beer." He just went on and just was like, "I will ingest this," and then it becomes, this whole thing like, I'll prove it to you by doing it to myself. I'm like, won't you get sick? Isn't that kind of silly, doctor? It's like, no. If I do get sick, it'll prove my point. And it's like, that doesn't always make sense, but, I mean, how can we argue with the guy? I mean, he won a Nobel Prize for this, right? Like, he won a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, 2005. He won a Nobel Prize in 2005 for putting himself on the line, literally swallowing his work to prove this point. Swallowing more than his pride, swallowing his work. So
swallowed his work, his potential of a future, like that's pretty crazy when you think about it.
That is dedication, man.
I mean, you have to be so sure of it. You're like, yeah, this is. I mean,
well, and hopefully this isn't going to kill me. But
yeah,
I guess
no, definitely.
He knew that. I guess at that point he knew that typically this disease doesn't necessarily kill if left unchecked, and if caused by a bacteria. The whole point, like why we even care to know that it's caused by bacteria, is a bacteria can be treated with antibiotics. So
do you think he was thinking that if he got infected or if he even died, that it would still prove his point? Like that he wasn't even worried about his life at that point, that it was just, if he died, it proved his point, actually. Yeah. So he could be like someone who get the Nobel Peace Prize, posthumously, after death for advancing medicine, but dying for the advance of medicine. I mean, if you told me that if I had to inject a new disease, it's like if I had been studying something for quite a long time, and I was like, you know what, maybe it's time for me to inject this disease. I don't know if I'd inject myself first. I think I think I'd have to do a lot of testing. But he did it at a time that's just so. Stuff was early. Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of information going on, and he took a risk, like a huge risk, because he was betting that his work was correct. And for a scientist, I feel like there's a little bit of an issue there, because there is always a problem of someone approaching it assuming that everything that they've done so far up to that point is correct or flawless. And he put his own life on the line because he was that confident. And I don't know if that's like a good thing. I think it's definitely great for us in terms of our advancement, but I don't know if it's necessarily a great thing in terms of for your because if we follow this example for everything, we're gonna have more situations where doctors, start like taking doses of things, and then they just like end up dying, and we don't know why. They didn't follow the written procedure.
Well, that's the end of this slippery slope.
Yeah.
but we still have to take our hats off to you, Dr. Barry J. Marshall, for being an original medicine badass. Hats are off. Skylar literally has a hat. I have my fake hat here. Hats off to you, sir.
Hats off.
For bringing up this awesome discovery in medicine.
And he's from Minnesota, huh?
No, he's from Australia.
He's from Australia? Oh,
I mean, you should have known.
I should have known.
Somebody that would do this would be from such a BA country like Australia.
It's got to put some shrimp on the barbie.
I mean, he's been fighting off snakes and creepy crawly things that kill you in the night through his whole life. So
maybe
a little stomach bacteria to him, it's like, eh.
It's like, this is nothing. We see spiders that are bigger problems than this.
Yeah, exactly. He's like the Steve Irwin of physicians.
That's cool. I think I'd just be like, hey, have you heard about the Steve Irwin of physicians? He's awesome. He totally, he ingested his own disease
Yeah.
to prove a point.
Prove a point. So, we want to hit you guys with this, leave you with this. Skylar brought up some good points throughout our discussion here. Is this something that you would ever consider yourself doing? And if so, how sure of yourself would you have to be before you would do something like swallow bacteria to prove a point and kind of, hold your fist up to mainstream medicine and show everybody that your way is the right way as far as a certain disease or scientific discovery? So let us know.
It's got to be peer reviewed after that too, so you still have to have all those things done.
Yes.
So even if you do take it, you might have to have situations where people repeat your experiment and they themselves ingest it. So there's a lot of, it's just the way that our culture, just in medicine period, on how we, validate what's acceptable. There's problems there. Like, just imagine, it's like, well, this resulted in the 10 people that tried to peer review cases, 7 people died.
Yeah.
It would be like, well, maybe you're right, but it's still not a great practice. Maybe, I don't know. Let us know what you think, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's, maybe, I'm not really a big fan of like animal testing, but I think that a lot of people would be like, oh, I'd rather someone else or something else test it, if it was safer, before putting, a person on the line for something like that. I don't know, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comment section below, and hit subscribe if you want to continue to receive our videos. We'll continue to put these things out just as fast as we can think of topics to bring to you guys. So thank you for joining us today for another one of Ty and Sky's Health Bits.
And have a good one.
Hello, Ty and Sky from Ty and Sky's Health Hub here. Are you an event organizer looking for a way to take your event to the next level? Well, we also do live podcast events with real health experts about the health topics that matter to your community. If you're interested in having us come out, follow the link and let us know.
Have a good one.